These people that you see here, lying on the floor outside during cold winter at 5 in the morning like zombies, these are not homeless people or drunk people. These are people who are addicted to taking fat loss medications that are prescribed by the doctors in South Korea. And what they're doing now is camping outside of the hospital which prescribes these diet pills for them. This is as the demand for these diet pill prescriptions are so high that if they just try visiting the hospital during regular operating hours, they can never get an appointment with the doctor. So then the question has to be asked, what is so special about these fat loss medications that are prescribed by the Korean doctors? First of all, these diet pills in which the doctors in South Korea prescribe to these patients are not some bogus diet supplements that you see over the counter in supplement stores such as GNC. These are actual, potent as can be pharmaceutical drugs. And what is even more shocking is that these doctors, not some underground dealers or anything of the sort, but actual licensed doctors in Korea are prescribing a cocktail of these pharmaceuticals to these quote-unquote patients without much, if at all, concern for the health of the patients from the side effects of this cocktail of strong pharmaceutical compounds. And in this cocktail of weight loss medications are compounds such as amphetamines that obviously comes with a myriad of potentially serious side effects to the health of these patients. And such side effects include potential for dependency and addiction, heart problems, insomnia, hallucination, and in the worst of cases, schizophrenia. So in this video, we'll be conducting a deep analysis on the exact cultural psychological causes as to why this type of abnormal phenomenon occurs only in South Korea. While it may indeed be the case that many people all around the world wishes to lose weight and look good, it is absolutely undeniable that no country in the world has a nationwide phenomenon where people sleep and wait on the corridors of the hospital entrance for sometimes more than days, like some drug addicts, all to be prescribed with 14 different pharmaceutical compounds that promises to make you effortlessly lose weight. So without further ado, let's get into the video. When I read comments online, or generally just in conversations, I can always hear individuals say how the people in South Korea are generally just a more visually pleasing group of people. And to be honest, they're not all wrong, as this unique physical look in which many of the Koreans possess is one of the biggest reasons, if not the reason, why K-pop idols and celebrities are so popular not only in Korea but all around the world. But when there's light, there's shadow. And as bright as these K-pop and drama stars shine on the surface, behind such a scene are millions of ordinary people in South Korea who suffer from insecurities and inferiority complexes in regards to why they are not able to look like these people that they see on television. And when I say such a statement, some may rightfully ask, are all Koreans living in a dreamland or something? How can they look at the top of the top, genetically blessed as can be, at least physical appearance-wise, human beings that are celebrities, and actually think that they can also look like them? And when somebody makes such a point, I personally cannot agree more. Every single individual is unique. Everyone has different bone structure and genetic features, as well as different physiology in terms of how fast their metabolism is, how easily they put on weight, etc., etc. And at least on the aspect of being able to stay thin, many of the K-pop idols may just have an innate advantage compared to the average Joe. And if they do not, it is also undeniable that a lot of the K-pop celebrities have the best nutritionists, as well as having the privilege to dedicate the entirety of their waking hours to stay in shape. However, an ordinary South Korean is likely to have none of these advantages. They may just not have the physical or physiological makeup which allows them to stay thin all year round. They also may have to work arduous 9-to-5 jobs every day, and thus do not have the time and energy to spend every minute of their waking hours in eating healthy and staying in shape. So if they are to objectively analyze themselves from a dispassionate third-person perspective, they should be able to realize that they can probably never be able to look like the K-pop idol that they see on television, at least in this lifetime. And in the case of most people around the world, They can accept this fact and have no problem living their life acknowledging the fact that they are not the thinnest and most good-looking people in the world. And while there are, of course, plenty of people in South Korea as well who can live their life acknowledging this objective reality in regards to their physical appearance, many individuals, at least disproportionately more individuals compared to that of other nations, cannot accept or tolerate their natural appearance. This subsequently creates a very serious cognitive dissonance in the minds of many South Koreans. In their brains, they have this image of themselves as these lean, good-looking specimens of human beings, or at least they believe they are more special than everyone else and thus deserve to be. But when they look into the mirror, what they see is far from what they believe they are destined to look like. And when we hear this, we have to once again ask, are all Koreans living in some type of fantasy world? Why can't they just evaluate themselves objectively and take themselves for who they are? But in fact, according to various research on cultural psychology, it does seem as if many South Koreans do live in the world of a quote-unquote illusion. Positive illusion, as it sounds, is when a person has an exaggerated positive self-evaluation about one's self-worth and abilities compared to the objective reality and what others actually perceive them to be. And according to research conducted by the South Korean cultural psychologist Dr. Han, on a scale from 0 to 20, South Koreans had a positive illusion rate of 8.61, while the Japanese people had a positive illusion rate of 0.13. And to be honest, we don't really have to rely on academic findings to know that this is true. South Koreans in general are not considered as the most humble group of people in the world. This is the polar opposite to some of the stereotypes in which people first think of when we imagine the typical Japanese individual, which is of their tendency to be humble to the point of sometimes even being self-deprecatory. Just take a one-day trip each to both South Korea and Japan and you get to see this. Go out to the typical areas in both Seoul and Tokyo where people come to hang out or go on dates. In Seoul, that could be the area of Itaewon, and in Tokyo, it could be the area of Roppongi. And now, just casually hear the type of conversations that are held between people, especially the ones who are on dates. In Japan, you'll hear that the conversations are more conservative. You'll almost never hear a person who downright brag about their achievements, let alone say out loud with their mouth of how good looking they are. But in Korea, you'll hear exponentially more people who just downright brag about things, all the way from the new car that they bought, or how they were asked out by this beautiful girl in the club, how they were these alpha males back in the army, how they are starting a new business and going to make truck tons of money, how they got six-pack abs only after 2 months of working out, etc., etc. And as exaggerated as this sounds, this is Korea. And trust me, it's not all bad, as I personally believe this inflated self-evaluation of self-worth, the subsequent pain in which many of the South Koreans feel from the severe cognitive dissonance when their actual reality is not met with what they deem to be their destined self-worth, and the subsequent effort in which the Koreans put in order to bring the level of reality to what matches to what they think should be their reality, is literally the singularly most important cultural psychological reason as to how South Korea went from being one of the poorest countries in the world in the 1960s to being one of the wealthiest nations in the world, surpassing Japan in GDP per capita by the year 2023. Rather than having an attitude of acceptance or a defeatist attitude, thinking we are South Korea, we are one of the poorest countries in the world, our country has been utterly destroyed and colonized by Japan for over half a century. We have insane neighbors up north from us who are willing to attack us in any minute. The South Korean cultural psychology works in the lines of, this is not how we deserve to live. We deserve to be a wealthy country. And this statement, when heard during the 1970s, was an absolute fantasy. The people from Japan, already one of the wealthiest people in the world, would have laughed in the Koreans' face, saying that these people are just living in an illusion out of touch with reality. But the South Koreans have shown throughout the decades that if you are a dreamer for long enough, combined with hard work, what was once a fantasy can turn into reality. And the reason why I bring this up is because this exact line of thinking, prevalent in the mass psychology of the South Koreans, is what is unfortunately also heavily contributing to this diet pill addiction problem in South Korea. Many women and men in South Korea look at television and see the K-pop idols. Rather than having an accepting attitude in regards to the fact that they most likely can never look like them, many people in South Korea think in the lines of, I'm Kim Min-jung. This is just an imaginary Korean name I made up, by the way. I'm that girl. I'm special. I don't deserve to be this fat. This is not the real me. I'm going to look better than those little NPCs who made fun of my appearance, and that is how things were destined to be. And such people usually start out by going to the gym. They hire these expensive personal trainers and work on their diet. But changing your entire body through the gym takes years of pain, sweat, and hard work. And as inflated as the egos are of many Koreans, many of them do not have the equivalent level of discipline and willingness to put in the hard work that matches with the level of inflated ego. So they start complaining about how even after hiring this expensive trainer and going to the gym, they're still fat. But then do they accept the fact that they just don't have the ability to put in the required level of hard work and dedication to get in shape? No. They start believing that all the K-pop celebrities are taking these magical fat loss drugs to have them stay as thin as they are, and believe that they do not look like the K-pop actors and the K-pop idols only because they themselves are not taking these pills. Or maybe they have worked hard in the gym and have been extremely strict with the diet. But the truth of the matter is that this may still not be enough. They may be just genetically designed in a way that their bones are too thick to the point that no matter how much weight they lose, they cannot pull off that K-pop idol girl look, or that the proportions are just not there, as in rather than having long limbs, they are born with long torsos. But then again, while many abroad would now take this as the time of acceptance, in that they can never look like the K-pop idol, disproportionately many people in South Korea cannot and will not come to this point of acceptance. So they search the internet, find this hospital that promises them with these magical pharmaceuticals that will make them as skinny and thin bone looking as the celebrity that they see on television. Then they head to the hospital, becoming one of the many zombie-like people who are sleeping on the floors outside of the hospitals, desperately waiting to receive these fat loss pills.